Perspective. Dr. Kaiser Nyatsumba, a chartered director, a turnaround strategy expert, business rescue practitioner, the author of just under 20 books, and a former newspaper editor. Welcome to Perspective, Dr. Kaiser Nyatsumba's podcast that focuses on business, politics, corporate governance, social issues, English grammar, and anything else that takes his fancy. The first talk show host on SABC1, where he presented Dilemma in Perspective, Dr. Nyatsumba now presents his hard-hitting, no-holds-barred podcast, Dr. Kaiser's Perspective. Welcome, one and all. Today, I want to place the spotlight on the growing number of political parties that contest elections in a democratic dispensation without being democratic themselves. These are owner or founder-led parties which, it would be no exaggeration to state, are the properties of their founders. I call those parties the properties of their founders because they've only ever been led by their founders throughout their existence. Before 1994, for instance, organizations that were properties of their founders were the Afrikaner Weerstandsbeweging, AWB, and the Inkatha Nkululeko Yesizwe stroke Inkatha Freedom Party, which were founded and led by Eugene Tereblanche and Inkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, respectively. The former led the AWB from 1973, when he formed it, until his death in 2010. Although the remnants of the AWB still exist today, for all intents and purposes, the AWB as a viable organization died with Tereblanche in 2010. Meanwhile, Buthelezi launched Inkatha in March 1975 and led it for a whopping 46 years when he stepped down as president in August 2019. Therefore, in its 53 years of existence, the IFP has had only two leaders, Buthelezi for the first 46 years, and the current incumbent, Velenkosini Hlabisa, who is a minister in the Government of National Unity. Slightly younger than the IFP was the National People's Party, which was formed by Amilcard Rajbanzi in 1981. It was the vehicle through which he served in the tricameral parliament of 1984 that excluded black South Africans. It also served as the vehicle that enabled Rajbanzi, a wily politician, to participate in the multi-party negotiations that took place at the World Trade Center from December 1990. On 1 November 1993, Rajbanzi launched his party as a minority front and contested through that vehicle the 1994 elections. He led that party until his death in 2011, with his widower Shamin Thakur Rajbanzi inheriting the organization's presidency in January 2012. Rajbanzi's first wife, Asha Devi Rajbanzi, and a son, Vimal, initially disputed Thakur Rajbanzi's inheritance as they would an interstate estate. To this day, Thakur Rajbanzi remains the leader of the Minority Front and is its candidate for the position of mayor of eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality in the 2026 elections. The AWP did not even bother to hold electoral conferences at all, but at least the IFP and the Minority Front gave a nod to fake internal democracy, which saw elections held periodically. Throughout the 46 years and the 30 years respectively, it was understood that the IFP and the Minority Front and its predecessor were Buthelezi's and Rajbanzi's fiefdoms, hence nobody dared to challenge them for the party's presidencies. Ironically, during our democratic era, the number of proprietary parties has grown alarmingly. At the top of that list must be General Bantu Holomisa's United Democratic Movement, which will be 30 years old in September next year. Throughout that period, it has been led by none other than its founder, Holomisa, and that is likely, in my view, to remain the case for as long as Holomisa remains alive or in politics. During the democratic era, the IFP and the UDM had good company in the form of the Economic Freedom Fighters, which is owned by Julius Malema, who has led it since its formation in July 2013. Malema, too, is assured of the EFF's leadership for as long as he remains in politics or alive. When she left the PAC, Patricia de Lille launched the Independent Democrats in 2003. She had been a member of parliament for that organization, for the PAC. Needless to say, she got to be the Independent Democrats' own owner leader until 2014, when she merged it with the Democratic Alliance. When they fell out with the DA 4 years later, she and Brett Herron launched another vehicle, the Good Party, that would take them to parliament. Yet again, she is the president of that party, and that scored their positions in Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinets both in 2019 and in 2024. It shows just how well it helps to lead your own, form and lead your own party and own it in South Africa. To their credit, though, the IFP, the UDM, the EFF and Good do hold regular electoral conferences. In those organizations, there's an unwritten rule that is known to all members. Namely, you may contest any position in the organization as long as you know that the ultimate leader will always remain the founder. Launched in the same year as the EFF was Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance, which is only 2 months younger than the EFF. Since its formation, the PA has been led by its owner, McKenzie, with his friend and fellow former prisoner, Kenny Gunene, as his deputy. Now, I'm not aware of the PA ever having held an electoral congress. In August 2020, former Johannesburg Mayor Herman Mashaba launched Action SA. He has been its president since then, with his former Johannesburg Chief of Staff, Michael Beaumont, as the party's chairman. Not once since its formation has Action SA held an elective congress, and there's no indication that it is about to do so soon. Then there is Jacob Zuma's Umkhonto weSizwe Party, which was launched in November 2023 on the eve of the 2024 national elections. That party, it must be said, simply takes the cake when it comes to its non-democratic credentials. Armed with nothing but Zuma as its lifetime president and its anti-Ramaphosa grievances and hatred, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party went on to confound skeptics and political observers by obtaining the highest number of votes in KwaZulu-Natal and the third highest in the country. Unlike all the other parties, though, MKP has made no secret of its dictatorial tendencies. Only Zuma's word counts for anything in the party, and he has not hesitated to appoint and unappoint people to and from different positions with gay abandon. Only Zuma's word counts for anything in the party, and he has not hesitated to appoint and unappoint people to and from different positions with their gay abandon. Most of those who were on the party's initial parliamentary lists were immediately discarded and replaced with his favorite for the moment. The biggest irony is that for a party that has no regard for the country's constitution and the judiciary, MKP has probably been the most litigious party since its formation. It is most disturbing, in my view, that a democratic South Africa currently finds itself with an official opposition party that does not even believe in the country's constitution. Compatriots, what do you make of this phenomenon of the proliferation of founder-owned political parties that are participating in a democratic dispensation? How, pray, can a party that has no internal democracy be committed to a real democracy in the country? It seems to me that there is reason for us to worry about what would happen if South Africa ever found itself governed by such parties. I do not think that this bodes well for our democracy. I worry that the proliferation of small, founder-owned political parties is a danger to the country and weakens our democracy. When all else is considered, the ANC, the DA and the PAC in the current parliament are most likely the only parties that practice internal democracy. Is it not about time that the Independent Electoral Commission required that all parties that seek to participate in a democratic process must themselves practice internal democracy? After all, the registrar in the Department of Employment and Labour does have similar stipulations for unions and employers' organizations. This, I suggest, bears some thinking about. Cheers for now. Thank you for watching Dr. Kaiser Netsumba's Perspective podcast. Please subscribe to it and share the content. To contact Dr. Kaiser Netsumba with a business proposal, a comment, or a suggested topic, write to the email address kaiser@kaisernetsumba.com. Again, that was kaiser@kaisernetsumba.com.